Hi, welcome to Working Smarter. I'm Wendy Rubis, General Counsel of VillageMD. So glad to be with you today. Janessa, they told me to say welcome back. Am I supposed to say welcome back?
Yeah, I think welcome back to all of our loyal listeners. What are we calling them now?
The listeners are smarties.
Yeah, they are smarties.
And we have so many great listeners that contact us, that give us feedback, questions. It's so helpful. And you know, Janessa, our whole mission, I guess I was supposed to introduce Janessa Nelson. Welcome back.
Hi, I'm the executive producer.
She always says executive, capital E.
Capital E.
Yes. And so our mission, the whole reason we do this is because I firmly believe and hope that we can get information out to people so they have it when they need it, where they need it, and that, you know, we give compliance and regulatory information, and we try to say it's not terrible.
God, I hope it's not terrible.
Yes. So you expect it to be terrible, and it's not terrible. That's
exactly. That's the goal. That's the goal. So, and this year we have so much amazing content lined up, and we're really, really excited about.
That's why you have the E now, because we have an
correct.
amazing plan for the year.
Yep.
We have so many exciting things, and I have to say, we do have some guests that are always welcome.
Yeah.
You know, we actually made a list. We listed our guests.
So,
Oprah Winfrey, always welcome.
Yeah.
Deepak Chopra, welcome.
Yeah.
Brene Brown.
So I contacted her and she declined. So
What?
next year.
Brene, she's starting her own podcast.
She's starting her own podcast.
Well, you know
Next
what?
year.
You know what? We're not giving up.
Yeah.
We're not giving up. Oh,
Some exciting news. So we were ranked 63rd was our highest ranking for Apple Podcast Government
63rd.
Government section.
So put that in your compliance hat. Is
Yeah.
that a thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Our most viewed and listened to podcast so far has been medical marijuana, interestingly enough.
Oh, yeah. I get a lot of comments on the medical marijuana. In
Yeah.
fact, I think one of my children, even their class, listened to it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know a lot of people have CBD oil that they're using,
In their cupboard.
you know, supplement like the actual oil. You know, there's a whole bunch of different stuff.
It's everywhere.
Yeah. I think that we should probably do something about that so that people understand what it
recently
is.
we
And
got some news from the FDA
Yeah.
that was alarming. So let's get Dr. Clive in here to tell us what to think about it.
that sounds like a great idea.
Welcome to Working Smarter, concise compliance conversations featuring Wendy Rubis, sponsored by VillageMD, primary care physicians, practice medicine the way you've always wanted, data, resources, and clinical decision support to care for your patients inside and outside the exam room.
We're so happy to have Dr. Clyde Fields here. Hi, Dr. Clive.
Hi, Wendy. How are you today?
So good, thank you. You know, we did a podcast on medical marijuana, and it was one of our most popular one. I don't know quite what to think about that, but we've had listeners actually from all over the world tuning in. And one of the things that you talked about was CBD oil, and there's been an update, a regulatory update. So happy to have you back to fill us in on what your thoughts are on this.
Well, Wendy, thanks. I mean, as I practice medicine on a daily basis, CBD seems to be the topic of the day.
I mean, it's everywhere. You hear people, like I was just listening to somebody on a podcast, they were saying, I use it every day, I keep it by my bed. I mean, you see it in like every grocery store, gas station, video store.
I can't think actually of a sign or a symptom or a problem that a patient hasn't brought to me as something that could be solved with CBD, while at the same time, many of them actually are interested in me participating in multi-level marketing schemes to actually help them sell CBD products. So to your point, it does seem like it is absolutely everywhere. And like most things that kind of take off as CBD has, lots of myths and half-truths and maybe some misunderstandings. So looking forward today to getting a chance to maybe clarify some of that stuff for your listeners.
I have to tell you, the first thing is I don't actually know what it is. So what is CBD? I mean, I don't know how I think you would know, but you don't have to answer that. But no, I really don't understand, like, what is it?
Yeah, so let's kind of go back to exactly what is CBD. When we talk about CBD, CBD is what's called a cannabinoid, and that means it comes from the cannabis plant. The most famous or best known ingredient of the cannabis plant would be THC, which is the portion of the plant that people use to experience, to be, quote, under the influence, to
Get
be
high.
to
He's
be
trying to say
stoned,
get high like a doctor.
Whatever it is that people want. But
Okay.
when you smoke pot or consume pot in any form, the THC component is the part of the plant that makes you high. The other parts of the plant, the other parts of the cannabis oils, we're going to call those we'll put those in the category of, or actually where CBD lives. What's interesting about CBD is that CBD actually attaches to different receptors in the brain than THC.
Okay.
So that's why it doesn't get you high. So I don't hear a lot of people talk about CBD products making them feel stoned or high. I do hear a lot about people talking or giving credit to CBD for lots of other things, whether it's stress reduction or anxiety relief or an anti-inflammatory effect or improvement in sleep. And there might be some science down the road that explains that. But today we're kind of living in a bit of a murky world.
Yes,
We're living in a world that we're not really sure. A lot of these products are being sold as medicinal aids and being given lots of credit that maybe they don't deserve, and maybe they will down the road.
Well, it was a point you raised when we talked about this last time, which is you don't actually know when you're buying something what's even in it and how much, what is actually in there, because none of this is regulated in the same way that medicines are tested and regulated.
Yeah, I say this a lot to patients, that I'm allowed to say that my hamburger is the best hamburger in the world. And I don't have to prove it to anybody because it's classified as a food. I'm not allowed to say that this pill will kill strep, because that would make it a medicine. So I think it's a little bit buyer beware, that when you're being pitched a product, any product in any part of your life that sounds too good to be true, there's likely a part of it that is too good to be true.
Well, I was surprised to see in November, and the reason for calling you to talk with us again is in November, the FDA came out with a consumer update. So the FDA has a bunch of different levels of warnings. The most significant, of course, is the black box warning. This is just a consumer update. But they did make it very clear. It was timely because we had just talked about this, but they have 3 sections of their update. And the first one is that CBD can harm you. And they set forth, the various research and evidence of this, but I'll just read. It says liver injury, it affects how other drugs metabolize, it can cause sedation and drowsiness if you are also drinking. And there's another note about decreasing male fertility, but they were clear to say with that one, it was only in lab rats, so I don't know what your thoughts are on that or how to interpret that.
So it brings up an interesting point. So when you take a drug, it's not just the effect of the drug that you take, but how that drug interacts with other drugs that you might be taking. So something as common as Tylenol, when taken in appropriate doses, rarely causes harm. But when Tylenol is used in appropriate doses with people who might be drinking an excessive amount of alcohol or taking other drugs that are metabolized through the liver, then the side effects or the potential complications of Tylenol increase. So when you think about something like CBD that's metabolized in the liver, everything else that goes through the liver actually is impacted by that metabolism. So don't think that one drug kind of functions in one part of the body and another drug functions in another part of the body. Many times they go through common pathways, and side effects of one drug can be exacerbated by the normal dosage of a different drug. So
someone could be experiencing this and not even attributing it to the fact that they're using CBD.
Exactly. Everything you put into your body, whether it comes from a pharmaceutical company or a supplement manufacturer or even a restaurant, in the inappropriate doses or in inappropriate doses or in combination with other things, can actually cause harm. Just be aware that nothing works quite in a silo inside your own body.
Yeah. So the second section of the FDA warning, if you will, was that first was the harm. To me, it's a little bit hard to understand how this is different. They noted our side effects, which to me, insomnia would be a harm. But anyway, I don't know the difference. But these are the things they said were side effects. Insomnia, changes in alertness, gastrointestinal distress, with a lot of other disgusting words as to what that means, and then mood changes, which is funny because that's sort of, it said irritability and anger, but exactly the opposite reason of why people would be using the CBD oil. So I thought that was interesting.
I probably get the biggest chuckle out of people who use CBD oil to help themselves sleep by infusing it in coffee. So somebody needs to tell me how coffee infused with CBD actually helps people sleep, because I don't know about you, but a cup of coffee late at night not helping me get through the night.
Right.
We do know that CBD attaches to neuroreceptors in the brain that may actually modulate the production of serotonin. And we know that serotonin, when low in people, can actually lead to anxiety and depression. So there is a biochemical pathway that you could actually lay out that may actually produce some of the positive side effects that people describe. But the same way that we have medications that raise serotonin in the brain and people get positive side effects, many people take the same medicine and get negative side effects.
Right.
So there's no one drug fits all, and there's certainly no one drug that people can point to and say this will improve your sleep, your depression, your anxiety, your weight management, your relations with your wife and your children. I mean, those kinds of things. So again, don't give too much credit to something that has very little science at this point.
Yeah. So that just cues up perfectly the third and last section of their warning, which is just how much is still unknown. And I think this is really just encapsulating, Clive, the things that you've said today, which is how much to take, what's the right dosage, how does it interact with other things you're taking, what are the side effects, and so on, and how does it interact, like as you said, with food, what does it do to your pets, and what is it doing to the water? They even noted that, which I thought was interesting. So just to drive home your point, it's still very unknown, and this is unregulated. So
Wendy, until we have answers to those kinds of questions, which are really the basic questions anybody would ask of any medication that they take, I think that we still have to be somewhat buyer beware. I'll actually bring up something that patients tell me all the time. They say, well, you know what? It's natural. So how could it possibly hurt you if it's natural?
Well, I think people have conflated the idea of it being legal with the idea of it being healthy. At least this is the point that you made when we were talking about marijuana. Just because it's not illegal doesn't mean it's like good for you.
Absolutely.
And I think there's a halo effect that's come over on the CBD.
Yeah.
And because it's unregulated, there's all these claims that people can make.
And again, claims without much science.
Right.
So I'll frequently kind of point to a periodic table and tell people that, mercury and arsenic are both natural, but we're not actually recommending that you take them, though they may have been recommended in prior generations.
We're suckers for natural,
lots of different things.
We're all suckers for natural.
Yeah, natural does not equal good, and unnatural does not necessarily equal bad. So I'm hoping the listeners understand that there's a lot of questions that we still need to answer around CBD.
So last point is just, and we've covered this, but really CBD is not, there is one application that's approved, which is, I guess, for seizures. Mm-hmm. For the most part, it's not approved, and they are really starting to enforce some of these claims. You'll see in the news more often now where the FDA is coming after people that are making health-related claims. But I think we just wanted to close, Clive, with just what is it that you're telling patients, and what's your guidance to our physician community about how to handle this in the primary care space?
Yeah, so great question, great opportunity for me to kind of close. I was getting dressed this morning, saw a news clip that actually said that the makers of Purell were being challenged by the FDA for actually making claims that Purell would decrease the transmission of certain viruses.
Yeah, Ebola in particular, I saw that.
And all kinds of crazy stuff, and with absolutely no science behind it. So I think if you take something as simple and as common as Purell, and you actually extrapolate the dangers associated with unknown side effects and unknown benefits to something like CBD, I don't think we're in a position as healthcare professionals, most of us working from an evidence-based and science background, to start to recommend CBD willy-nilly for those patients that think it's going to help everything that ails them. There are lots of ways for us to help patients manage stress and anxiety, insomnia, that are far more evidence-backed and with much less likelihood of harm. And I would urge all the healthcare professionals that listen to us today to think about how you were trained, how you do use science and evidence in the recommendations that you make to patients, and really challenge yourself whether CBD at this point makes the cut for those kinds of recommendations.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, that's so helpful. Thanks for helping us understand this FDA warning. We really love having you on the show and appreciate it, and hope to have you back.
Thanks, Wendy. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you to our sponsor, VillageMD. We hope you will join us for future concise compliance conversations.